Realize how worthy and abundant we are and what is possible and where we can resource that.
In LA, in Hollywood, doing spiritual work, seeing a lot. Yeah.
We're gonna bring everyone up on the stage, and yeah, we're just gonna talk. I'm just gonna share a little bit about regenerative storytelling and shifting the narrative. And cool. So yeah, we have so many amazing beings here, coming to share our collective intelligence. I'm just going to begin with a little bit about the regenerative movement in general.
I am a steward of the Global Psychedelic Society, and community has been a great passion of mine because I had a story that I'm by myself, and life is hard, and I couldn't connect to others also because of trauma. So thanks for setting the stage and bringing the invisible puppeteer that is orchestrating all the bullshit to the table because there's just not enough language for it. So when it comes to generative stories and the power of our stories, I'm going to pull from one of our most favorite, often heard quotes, Buckminster Fuller. If you don't like an existing system, create a new one that renders the original obsolete. In other words, throw a better party, right? So if we don't like the existing systems, the work then is for us to create the new system, but we can't do it operating the bullshit programming that we received from the original system, right? The original system taught us scarcity, competitiveness. We have to be worried, like things are falling apart. It's urgent. Oh my God, if we don't fix it, it's going to be really bad. But when we create solutions from that mindset, we're embedding the old programming within it. So I teach people how to tell better stories. And I have a few slides. I'm going to share a little framework that I've been working with, giving nods to some of our favorites. Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So until you become aware of all the unconscious programming you've received from society, from culture, from your family, from traumas, until you become aware of what that impact is on yourself, you are running it. And so when it comes to creating new stories, the work is to start looking for it. And so I like to point to, I'll say this one piece before. Two fish in the water, one fish says to the other, how's the water? And the other fish says, what's water? We can't see the water when we're in it, when we're not working on it. So this is why I'm such a fan of psychedelics. Thanks for bringing that to the table. This sort of work helps us become aware of the water, but so does breath work. It's not a magic tool, it's just another way of getting out of the monkey mind. And that's the piece that I really want to celebrate about what psychedelics do. And so when it comes to helping yourself see the water, I like to call to mind Joseph Campbell, famous scholar, author, teacher. He took stock of the world's myths all around, from like caveman drawings to religious scriptures to pop culture, Shakespeare, whatever, and he found a pattern. Mic drop, yeah. He found a pattern called that he coined the hero's journey. I wonder, can you guys see no, you can't see the mouse. Can you? All right. So at the top of the hero's journey, you're in the known world, everything's predictable. You're running your programming, you think everything's like this is just the way the world is. And at some point there's a call to adventure that knocks you out of it because you're getting into conflict with whatever that programming is. So if it's a belief like, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong here, I can't measure up to the standards, nothing I seem to do adds up, you're gonna run into conflicts. They're gonna build and build and build and build until they hit you into the abyss, until they run you into the abyss. But depression, addiction, illness, hard shit happens. And we spend all this time going, oh, that hard stuff happened, there's something wrong with me, I'm dysfunctional, you get a label. But what if that's actually a perfect response to dysfunctional programming? Right? So, inviting us to welcome the abyss and bring it into our day, to recognize that there's a lesson here, because what happens in the abyss is you start to connect. You go, okay, well, this old way doesn't work anymore. What's the alternative? And you start to connect to the wisdom inside, and you learn a new way. And it comes from you, not from the outside, not from that seeking external validation, but from what you've decided for yourself. Because we all have what we need inside of us, which is a matter of connecting to it. And then we, in the hero's journey, you transform, atonement, I like integration, and then we bring it back to the regular world, back to the village. I've created one more version of this that sort of simplifies it, and I call it making the unconscious conscious, building off of the Carl Jung thing. Again, we get the unconscious programming, we become slowly aware of it through the challenges, it runs us into the abyss, we transform, we integrate, and we're on the other side. And so, when you are telling stories, I invite you to bring these pieces to the table. It's all about transformation. Okay, I'll keep it short because I want to give everyone else a chance to talk, so thank you so much. Tell more stories.
Amazing. Marisa has an amazing program, which I went through last year on storytelling, and she has a program online if you want to join it ever. YourStoryIsEverything.com. Your story is everything, and your story and your voice, your soul signature frequency, has the ability to transform your life and those around you. The world we know is created through story, and so once we can shift our internal story, we shift our collective story, and that's when we step into a regenerative movement. That's when we step into regenerating the planet into wholeness and balance and a world that works for all. So I encourage you to look at your story and dive into it and see how you can share your story, because it also is your message for the world, and that's what attracts your clients, your audience, and your community into your life. And so I'm gonna hand the mic over to my good friend Joe McBean, who runs New Earth Development and is super inspiring.
Thank you. And thank you for all of you being here, sharing your beautiful hearts, your experience. Thank you for all of you either staying up very late or waking up very early. Either way, you've made a big commitment to be here, so thank you. What I want to add to this amazing conversation is simply what I would be asking if I was sitting in the audience, which is, how do I make this useful to me? So show of hands, who here is an entrepreneur where you're in charge of being the voice of the marketing of what you do? Okay. Who here has a dream that they want to bring into the world, but they need clarity a bit more on how to do it? Okay, is there anything else that is a burning desire or question in the audience that you really hope that this talk will help you cover between all of us? You could shout it out, anybody. Nothing? All right, then I'll completely go off of guesswork of what you want to hear. So I won't go super deep in my story to give space for everybody else, but when I was 14, I came home off the school bus in Cleveland, Ohio, and found a trail of blood leading to the bed where my mother was laying, holding a pillow to a head wound. She had fallen down the stairs. I'm standing there with my hand trembling as I held the home phone, about to call 911. She told me repeatedly, she says, "Joey, don't call. Joey, don't call." So I almost called, but I didn't. I set the phone down, I ran off, and I played football with my buddies. And 2 weeks later, a family friend came over and saw my mom. She hadn't passed away, but she had gotten more and more sluggish, less and less able to recall things. That family friend drove her immediately to the local clinic, who called an ambulance that took her immediately to the local helipad that flew her to downtown Cleveland to get immediate brain surgery. A tragic enough story, but the challenging part was as soon as she came home, I was now 15 after all of her surgeries, and her brain was forever destroyed. She had bipolar syndrome. She was extraordinarily angry about the life that she was aware that she just lost. She couldn't help but drink any alcohol she could find, harass the neighbors when she couldn't find it, and drink cleaning supplies if she couldn't find it in those ways. So I walked and tiptoed through a household where I never knew when an emotional bomb of projection of anger and shame and blame and criticism would erupt onto me. This drove me into trying to be as successful as I possibly could to fucking prove to everybody that nothing was wrong with me. To put on a mask to the world to demonstrate that my heart wasn't hurting, I'm fine, I'm a golden boy. But inside, I was petrified, I was terrified, and I was extremely guilty and shameful for what I didn't do back then. And the only reason I share this is because guilt and shame is the single most important thing in all of our spiritual, emotional, mental, entrepreneurial journeys. Your dream requires you to pay attention to what inspired you in the moment to accidentally create shame and guilt in your body, typically here. So in the spiritual community, we get these visions and these dreams and these downloads and these insights, and we meditate and we pray and we take mushrooms and we go to these things and we envision, and then our relationships fucking fall apart because we're not embodying it. Because there's a guilt and shame bucket that we carry around, and nobody ever taught us how to let go of it. For me, what helped me chip away at that anchor inside of me were stories. I started listening to the stories of Les Brown. I started listening to the stories of Tony Robbins. I started finding an empowering story anywhere I possibly could. Stories from my therapist, helping me understand what's going on. And what I want to impart upon you before I pass the mic off is that the most important thing I think you can carry away from this talk is the recognition that your story is the most important story ever told. But not just the story of where you've been until now, that's critical. But what's most important is that you live your life with a level of integrity such that if you were on camera on a reality TV show every single moment of your life from when you woke up to when you went to bed, you would be proud of millions of people watching. That level of integrity will be the responsibility that you carry that, like a billionaire at Burning Man told me in 2022, I asked him, how do you hold this much responsibility? Billions of dollars, yachts, empires, all these things. And he says the key, the secret, is to take on more than you think you can handle and let the weight of the responsibility show you where you can let go of what is no longer serving you. So courageously dream, and don't ignore the discomfort in your body when you stop recognizing how in the world is going to happen, when you might even go into a panic attack. Go through the healing process. Give yourself care, give yourself compassion, and tell the truth about the journey that you're on. Because the story you tell yourself about yourself is the most important story ever told. Thank you.
So I'd like to pass the mic off to Sean, who's the founder of Only One. It's an amazing, as I said before, an amazing platform that's focused on protecting and restoring the oceans. They have millions of subscribers. They have a really big following on social media, and they're really making it happen. And I'm so excited to share all the synchronicities and the magic, how I met each and every one of you. And we were just sitting in Somos yesterday, and then he sits beside me, and I've been sharing about, I love sharing about each and every platform that exists. I've been creating a database for 7 years. My mind is like, you know, a catalog of all the regenerative and conscious organizations. So once I know you, I know what you do, and I can share it. And so for years I've been tracking Only One, and I love it. So I'm so grateful to be here with you today.
Thank you, thank you. So let's do a team exercise. I want to practice changing the story right now. So my invitation is to put one hand into the ground, feel it. One hand on your heart. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in slowly and smell through your nose. Smell everything in the air. Hold it. Feel it in your body. And on the exhale, let go of any story about your experience today. No stories, just feel on that exhale. Inhale deeper, and I want you to feel more and smell more and hear more and see more behind your eyes. And on the exhale, just let that all go. One more inhale. Oxygen from the trees, pollen from the bees, salt water from the seas. Feel your body. And exhale, just become fully present for what is right now. Now open your eyes. Just look to your left and look to your right. And what you'll notice is, in just that short moment, we all dropped into a same frequency. We just changed the story for everybody just now. So when people ask me, how do we change? And my answer is pretty simple: become present. We're so distracted. We have our phones, we have our friends, we have our networks, we have our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, flight plans, trips, this and everything. We keep our brain, as this brother so acutely talked to and you talked about, that is so busy and so hardwired and so hungry and so ravenous for information. We forgot the most important thing, which was being embodied in this sensual experience. We were given these bodies for a reason, to feel. And we have these 5 beautiful senses and then our extra senses. So when people say, how do I do that? How do you show up that way? It's like, it's really simple. I dissolve the story that I've created and I surrender to the actual experience. There is sort of some pseudo-spirituality around there is no reality. Now, there is a reality. It's just full of distortions that we've all created. The reality exists. We just need to surrender and feel it without a story. So what is the power of storytelling? And it's interesting because, my work is a storyteller. I'm a filmmaker, photographer, activist. I go all over the world. I work with indigenous communities. I work with whales and sharks and mantas and dolphins and everything in the oceans. And my work is to tell their story. But the only way I can tell their story is to hear it. To open my ears, open my eyes, open my energetic field, because they don't speak English. They speak source. They speak the universal song of the universe. And so as long as I'm chattering, I can't hear their story. It's like when someone's telling you something and you're just waiting for them to stop so that you can say what you want to say. You haven't heard a word they said. You haven't felt what they're trying to tell you. Surrender in the moment, be present, and it is the gift. That's why they call it the present. And then the story becomes important because that's where your agency comes in. And I loved what you said about that, which is, don't try to change your beliefs, and don't think you're going to suddenly just change your behavior and it's New Year's and you're going to work out every day suddenly. Change your story. I am a healthy person. And you start to believe you're a healthy person, and then you exercise and eat and behave like a healthy person. I am a person of integrity. That becomes your story. The beliefs follow and the behaviors follow, and you reinforce the cycle. And that is the power of storytelling, because it starts with our story. You could go through years of therapy to change the problems in your life, or you could breathe in, become present for the now, let go of the stories of the past, which is what embeds our trauma. Not what happened, but our story of what happened. 2 people, same experience, completely different takeaways. How is that? Different stories. But that's the power. We get to write our own story. And when it comes to conservation and Mother Earth, that story is one of regeneration. It's one of people coming together, waking up in the morning, even though they're tired or hot, sitting here, thirsting for knowledge, thirsting for community, thirsting to create new ways of coming together, new ways of being in community, and rewriting a story. And from that story, we start to believe that things are possible. And when we believe it's possible, we finally start to act in the ways that make it possible. But it doesn't happen with them, they. It happens with you and we. Every single one of us matters, because when you are that firefly out in the night and someone sees that firefly glowing in the woods, they're drawn to it. And then their firefly light lights up. And what starts as a little tiny flicker starts to glow and fill the entire forest with light. That's how we make change. And so we are all storytellers. Every single one of us. Do not take away that power from yourself. And if you want to change the life and change the planet and say, why are we fucking it up so bad? Look at yourself and wonder why you're doing that to yourself. Are you cramming substances into your body all day from morning till night to try to feel, in fact, not feel? Are you not honoring your spirit and your heart? Are you acting out of integrity when it feels comfortable? Or are you choosing the path every day in every moment? Are you honoring yourself, and are you creating the story of this incredible being that's showing up for themselves, showing up for family, showing up for community, and only when you do all those can you show up for Mother Earth. And that is how we heal it. So the invitation for everyone here is to simplify the process. Whenever you feel like it's not happening and the world sucks or whatever your life is, close your eyes, take your shoes off, put your feet in the earth, hold your heart, breathe in, drop into these beautiful 5 sensuous senses, feel your being in the sphere as the oneness that we are, the blood cell in the body, because that's what we are. We are one in that. It's real. And from that, choose the story of the day that is going to propel you forward to the place where you are suddenly standing atop that hill, living in the world that you want, the one you believe that matters. So my organization, Only One, is a storytelling and conservation organization that brings together people around the world who want to be part of that change. And they get to individually take action, they get to become part of the story, and in doing so, we create a global movement where ultimately we move from a society of reckless consumers to relentless conservers. And that's the world that I'm telling the story about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have Michelle Barton here. She is an amazing producer and actress, and she has this amazing spiritual comedy called Down the Middle. You can check it out on YouTube for free. She's coming from the heart of this movement of what has been birthed on planet Earth, which is, you know, media in LA and Hollywood, and she's a really interesting, you know, take on it because she is making so many powerful shifts and transformation within the system and how we can shift. Thank you.
Thank you, Glow. Aw, thank you for that sweet introduction. Yeah, so my name is Michelle Barton, and I like to say that I'm a mystic with a mainstream mindset. The short story of that is little Michelle told her mom at 9 that she could, in Minnesota, that she could find me in Hollywood and I'd be on the phone, but we wouldn't be able to have lunch every day. And she's like, what? Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, that's where I'll be. I'm gonna be an actress. And I was telling her all about this at 9. And also at that time was creating dog shows to send money to Ethiopia for the starving children. And there's always been this, like, how can we work with entertainment to serve the world in good ways, which has only just continued to be the story as I've traversed this earth. And there was a time where it felt really separate, where I was walking the path of mainstream Hollywood actress, producer, learning baby producer, and training and facilitating in ritual arts and pagan year-long trainings and all of that, and how does this work together, and becoming a dancing freedom facilitator and remembering my relationship with the elements in a deep way. And then over the years, the integration and the braiding of working elementally as an actress and as downloading and listening to the stories the trees want to tell that impact the stories I'm dreaming up and working with other producers and storytellers, and realizing and remembering that these paths are one. And what I've been seeing, I was very guided last year to really bring my energy, to drop any other facilitating that I was doing and give my energy back to the spaces in Hollywood as an actress and producer, weaving from this intentional prayer. And there's been so much disruption. So this is really just a report from an inside. You know, it's really important that we are building these new structures with all the incredible technology that we have. And right now my place has been to weave this bridge, and I've been working with a group called Artists for Amazonia, where we work to bring the stories of the indigenous and really bring the stories of the Amazon rainforest into popular culture so that people can relate to why it's important. And an example of the kind of disruption that I'm seeing now with where we've gone through with COVID and the strike last year, and all the development of AI, like there's a lot of disruption in what was a very opaque structure in how things got made. And also in the last 10, 20 years with the bringing in the storytelling through the Hulus and Netflix, the streaming platforms, the disruption that has brought in has been really interesting, because you have old school Hollywood, this kind of filmmaking history that, yes, has a lot to do with making money, but there was also people who love to tell stories mixed in with it. There's like a culture there, and some of it's very, very dark, and we all know that. And you have these tech companies that then came in where really the storytelling is almost a data point, and they're on the same negotiating team with contracts. So it's a very interesting time inside the industry, right? And then we have artists and activists coming together to weave indigenous storytellers and giving them the camera to tell their stories, and then groups forming to bring them into Hollywood. So there was an event, just to give you an example of what I'm seeing, where there's an event called If Not Us, Then Who, that works with indigenous storytellers and puts the cameras in their hand, brings them to Hollywood. We're seeing their stories. And in CAA, which is a huge old school agency, some friends of mine in the past have called it the Death Star in terms of its impact, in the community and how they do business. But they have a foundation, and that foundation made room for this event in the offices of CAA, where we have indigenous who have traveled for days to get to this event, and directors, actors, producers, lawyers, politicians, activists, artists, all at this event, sitting for 3 hours to listen and watch and hear from the indigenous storytellers. And then we all have a party upstairs together. I tell you, I get down on my knees and I pray for that, because I realize in those moments that is the eagle and the condor coming together, and to work with some of the structures of this of the old institutions, and wherever we're bringing these stories through and regenerating our life force together and what we're creating, there are ways to work within some of the old structures as new are being born and old things are dying, where things can move swiftly. And I've been trained, I say trained, but it's like my own experience of alchemy, in this journey of little girl and celebrations and traumas and the dreams and what's happening in the world and da 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 da. For a while there was so much judgment on the old institutions, and now they're stuck in the same stories too, the people who run the institutions. And then there are people who are awakening to their power and the power of their stories and their ability to make change in there too. And so there's a dissipation of judgment across the board, and just looking at what structures can we engage as we are allowing the death and rebirth through our systems of our own stories and the collective stories, and how can we continue to work together to breathe and birth what's next. And so as Glo mentioned, I also have Down the Middle, which is a comedy series that playfully introduces nonviolent communication inside of an odd couple workplace comedy. And we're also in development for a very large limited series about Hildegard von Bingen, who was a nun in the 17th century that was very connected to the feminine face of God and the power and the life force through nature that is here on earth. Viriditas, the power that the blade of grass has to turn towards the light, is the same power that we have to turn towards the sun. And she whispered with all the king's ears and all the people's of power's ears. So we're bringing that through the popular culture channels as well, and just finding really fun ways to continue to weave regenerative storytelling through our society in the collective field. My company is called Pulvis Solaris Productions. We like to instigate shifts in perspective that incite a healthy global community. And I'm Michelle Barton, and I also act in Shapeshift and have a great time inside of all that stuff.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's so inspiring. We're getting close on time, and I'm gonna dive into just one or two questions for the panel to answer in as short as time as possible. But I just wanted to, I haven't had time to share about my story. I just wanted to, acknowledge all the, the stuff about like the brain and the mental clarity and all this stuff and working with psychedelics. And 6 years ago, I arrived here at Envision Festival pretty suicidal and depressed. One day I woke up in Mexico and I looked in the mirror and I couldn't recognize who I was. My normal consciousness was gone. I couldn't see who I was, and I was filled with this heavy darkness. I thought I was a horrible person. I didn't want to be alive. And coming to Envision Festival 6 years ago with Karma Tribe, which is a gifting economy, a platform of people helping each other for free, completely transformed my life. Coming here and connecting with people and, signing up 500 people for a platform that year, volunteering, hearing David Casey speak about New Mundo, which is a platform of eco-villages, and hearing Stephen Brooks talk about Punta Mona and, these solutions for a regenerative world really inspired me and shifted me into a new path of traveling to sustainable communities. And prior to that, I lived in Shanghai, China. I couldn't see 50 feet in front of me with, an apocalypse. I felt my lungs filled with smoke, and, really woke up to what are we doing on planet Earth? And from there, I went to the Amazon rainforest doing conservation research, where I was spending 8 hours a day hiking through the Amazon, collecting data on the frogs, snakes, butterflies, you name it, stepping on bullet ants, wanting to cut off my foot at the time, and having the realness of uncontacted tribes, not knowing, if we're going to have to evacuate because there's an uncontacted tribe and we don't know how we're going to interact with them. And after that, I moved to Mexico, and my whole life changed when I found myself in a landfill after, being on the most pristine beaches, picking up trash, and then diving into the research of, what plastic is actually made of. It's made of oil, it's extractive, it's polluting on every level for our human bodies and for the planet. And through that, I found Superhero Academy, which is a school for people that want to change the world. And then that's when I learned about marketing and documenting and storytelling. And so I picked up my phone and I started documenting everything. And that's what really shifted me in stepping into, sharing other people's stories and promoting and networking and sharing these amazing things that are happening on planet Earth. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm so grateful to have the space and for Envision, because it really shifted my life. It was my first time doing psychedelics, mushrooms, and my whole consciousness shift started 6 years ago here. So super, super grateful. And I have a couple of questions for the panel. I'm just tuning into how we can really shift and synchronize our regenerative movement. And the first question is, how can we synchronize our collective efforts to see the distribution of resources and energy to all beings?
I'll just say, where did Camara go? Because her 300-person gathering later sounds like a great way to start. I think we need to talk to each other more. Let's have connective conversations where it's what are you doing? How can we build together? I want to start a t-shirt company that says mycelial AF, because the work is to be mycelial as fuck together and to build and make it fun, right? Let's make it fun.
Beautifully said. I would say that the answer is coded in our dreams. What we all feel our dream is to create is our puzzle piece that fits into the greater puzzle. And only through talking with each other in inspired ways and listening to the ways that other people are inspired can we ever start to be like, oh, that's how we can piece my dream puzzle piece with your dream puzzle piece and make something way more epic than you could have ever imagined. But be prepared for it to be bigger than you're ready for.
For me, there's the elephant in the room, which is something we call scarcity. We are living in a society where we have been poisoned with this false belief of scarcity. We're never enough, we could never have enough, and we consume, and we fill our lives with stuff and other people's energy, and we're just succulents taking it all in because there's this false narrative of scarcity. And when you're in a state of scarcity, you take for yourself, and if someone tries to rescue you and you're drowning, you drown them with you. So the underlying dis-ease that has to be addressed within all of us is this false belief of scarcity, and it comes from not enoughness. So loving yourself and realizing you already were born into a being that has everything it ever needed within it, and that everything else is your abundance. And when you're in a state of abundance, you're generous and you share and you don't take things that damage the system and the ecosystem. So it's really surrendering this false concept of scarcity, embracing abundance within yourself, not a hippie concept, the real abundance that has been given to you in this fabulous being. And then in that state of abundance, looking to each other and sharing in that abundance and creating an abundant world together.
I guess to add into that, when it is those times when something is revealed to you that needs tending to and breathing through, to not step over it, to make the room for it, continue to clear the way, to feel the light, fun things, but also allow the sadness, the grief, the anger, and to invite it to the table, because inside of your prayer for regeneration in your life and for our life and whatever it is, how that dream moves through you, to be willing to bring presence to the alchemy of the denser emotions and what's behind them, and be willing to look at what might be in the way causing a sense of scarcity and this is that, and be willing to engage it, to love it, to help it come into the light and realize how worthy and abundant we are and what is possible and where we can resource that, you know, and just like honoring that that little piece of you needs some loving, tending care to join the party in this new way.
Thank you. So so how do we synchronize our collective efforts? I think that we have so much power with cross collaboration and cross posting. So I really always been diving into, you know, how we can create automatic systems, you know, through media and marketing. We can share, acquire lists, share our influencers, and we have so much power. You know, I imagine, you know, a system where we have the New Earth News, and, you know, every day we can, you distribute across, you know, even if we only have 1,000 organizations sharing through, you know, the same email, the same text, the same social media platform, it will amplify, because 1 + 1 is not 2. It's way more than 4. It's way more than anything. And so I think once we can start to really dial in this marketing for the new earth, then we can see this collective distribution of the shift of people stepping into their power, into contributing into a new way. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to come talk to any of us.
Thank you to the Regenerative Movement, Glomas and Amigos.